Hello and happy Thursday. It is May 20th, 2021, and we're currently in a pandemic, and it has taken such a toll on a lot of people's mental health. So, you know what? I just want to go ahead and talk about breaking the mental health stigma and how people view it so poorly. Mental health 10 years ago, just 5 years ago, 20 years ago, was not talked about, and people weren't bringing awareness to it. So I just want to go ahead and start talking about it, just because I've been dealing with a lot of mental health and being diagnosed with postpartum depression. So I want to go ahead and talk about that. So go ahead and introduce yourself, and thank you for being our guest.
Hello. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here and the opportunity to share my story. My name is Christina Moreau, and as you can see, I'm signing because I am deaf. I grew up in Japan, but now I do live here in Arizona, where I met you.
Okay, so thank you for being here, like I said, once again. So let's go ahead and start talking about mental health. When did you start realizing that mental health awareness or anything like that was coming up?
Well, it was an interesting story because I have been struggling with mental health since I was 14, basically. And so approximately 20 years. But of course, like you had mentioned, even a few years ago, people weren't really talking about this topic. It was a very taboo subject. And they were focused on physical health for sure, but mental health kind of was pushed into a corner. So when I was struggling with that, I didn't really realize that, mental health is like lots of other people struggle with it. I just what's wrong with me? And I feel weird and just strange, and other people seem to be A-okay, and I'm sitting over here struggling. And it was really embarrassing while I was struggling to understand myself. And then more and more people became aware that mental health issues, and people started talking about it out in the open, and it got some light of day. And I was like, whoa, these people have experienced the same thing I have. I didn't have to feel weird or feel awkward about it, that I'm super different, but I felt really had a lot in common with these people. And as the time progressed, I really realized that there's just one health type. There's mental health and physical health are really related. There's just one version of health. You can't just poo-poo mental health and focus on physical health and vice versa, because they are so interconnected. And that's something I'm really learning a lot along the way in the last couple years specifically.
Oh yeah, 14 years. Wow, you're such a rock star for, going through that. And it's so hard to go through mental health alone, and I was going through, depression alone, and I was feeling like I didn't want to be here. And I think it was the imbalance in hormones. I'm not too sure. I just recently went into mental health, and I am taking 2 summer classes to, broaden my opening about mental health and how I have been struggling with it. But growing up as well, I didn't realize all the things that were occurring to me. I was just more in the moment than I was, aware of what was actually happening and how it would actually traumatize me. Growing up in middle school and high school, I want to talk about an experience in high school. There was this camp, and it's called Unitown. And it talks about, your mental health, and it's a lot. It was a 4-day stay at the school campus, and it was just so many activities, and it was segregation activities. It was cross the line if you've ever experienced bullying, cross the line if your parents are divorced. And it was a quiet game. You weren't allowed to talk to anyone, and you would move from corner to corner to corner. And it was just really hard seeing everyone else walk with you, but you're quiet. You're not saying anything to anyone. You're not communicating. You're just walking. You're hearing that person just state statements like, cross the line if you do this, or move to this position. And it was just so heartbreaking. Like, we were in a circle as well, and go to the middle if you've ever experienced your parents fight. Go to the middle if you've ever experienced any type of abuse. Go to the middle if any. And it was just so eye-opening that everyone was like going in for different situations, and it just brought you aware of everything. And I think since that point in my life, my junior year, I started to see myself very different. And I think a lot of people that went to that camp started to see themselves very differently too. And it just opened up, your awareness to mental health, and that everyone's going through something and it's not really talked about. So that camp opened my eyes up a lot. And that was my high school experience. And that's something that, that stuck with me forever. Is there any experience for you that stuck with you through your elementary, middle school, high school, college years? How was that?
Absolutely. It's interesting that you mentioned really the power of seeing that you're not alone in situations, and that people have sadly shared these experiences with you. And like, really, that's very powerful to me. And I have experienced along the way several things. One thing that happened earlier in my life is when I was in elementary school. Because I grew up as the only deaf person in a hearing family, and the only deaf person in a hearing school, or in a mainstream school, I did not really have access to all the social cues and interactions that people like were carrying on conversations that I just kind of missed out on. And I missed an opportunity to become friends with many different people because they didn't know sign language, especially boys. I never really was friends with boys at all because they didn't tend to learn sign language. Girls were a little bit more open to the idea, so I did have some female friendships. But that was still limited in my opportunities to socialize, and resulted in a lot of isolation when I was younger. I did keep to myself a lot and kept my experiences kind of inside. So it was hard for me to communicate with people and share my true self, so I just kind of kept to myself. And I don't know if it's related to my mental health at all, but often hearing people misunderstand words, especially like deaf versus DEAF, like Frank, or death, DEATH, sounded like the TH. I remember in fourth grade there was a boy who said, "Oh, you're deaf," with a TH. I'm like, no. So that just, I didn't really appreciate that, first of all. And that maybe made me feel kind of unbalanced in my identity as a deaf person. Made me feel like, who am I? And I was already isolated, and I didn't have a lot of exposure to other deaf people socially. And I felt like I was alone in a hearing world. And then they say that to me. It just didn't feel good. And at the time, being a kid, didn't really take the time to sit down and process my feelings of what was going on inside me. It wasn't until recently that I realized that comment really bothered me, and it was really an insult to my identity. It made me feel very much less than and put down. And then in middle school, I became good friends with one girl, and she had learned sign language, and we communicated that way, and we were very chatty Cathys together. And, middle school girls, and you'd like to try new things and test out the waters and show your independence in lots of different ways. And it's a smorgasbord of emotions just in general. And she decided to become friends with another girl. And that girl didn't know sign language. My friend did, but the other new friend did not. And so, of course, they were palling around and going out and hanging out. And I didn't really feel like I was able to join them because I didn't have access to the communication that was happening between them. So inside, I kind of got jealous and angry, and just I was all over the place emotionally. And it really affected my everyday activities and living. I was just kind of obsessed with that situation. And I just got mad and jealous of that they could have that. And I think that includes all the hormone changes that go along with middle school as well. And that made a big impact on my mental health in middle school. I was kind of depressed and sulky and felt very isolated and felt like my friend had left me behind in a way. So that caused some social problems. And then in high school, freshman year, when I started high school, I was wondering if because of everything that was going on from middle school, if I could just show up and start fresh. But in high school, I seemed to become, and a little bit dwelling on becoming a perfectionist. So that was my new adventure. And I became obsessed with doing everything correctly and get everything super precise and all of my work. I had to read it twice, double check, triple check, quadruple check everything. And my mind was just so focused on making everything perfect that my friends and family noticed, and they were like, hey, you need to take it easy a little bit. And I was like, no, I absolutely cannot do that. And so then that did affect my friends and family, and they were worried about me because they see the hours that I'm spending just obsessing over my work and making sure everything's good and perfect, and I couldn't let it go. And that concerned them. One of the stories that I share is when I had another friend who was sleeping over at the house. So she came over, and I was also obsessed with my homework, but my room as well had to be meticulous. So everything had its place. And I had some books that were stacked up, like perfectly aligned, of course. And my mom, she was like, come on, you can just chill out with that. My mom tried to do a test, and so she moved one of my books kind of askew, and it wasn't perfectly aligned anymore. I'm like, ugh. And my mom's like, no, it's fine. I'm like, Mom. So when my friend came over, I was in the middle of screaming at my mother for moving my books, and my friend's like, what did I just walk into? And at that moment, I realized, hold on, what am I doing? What am I doing with myself right now? Why am I so just out of control and obsessed with this one thing? Like that wasn't normal. And so that really kind of made an impact on me that was like my wake-up call that I had an issue with that. I went to counseling a few times, and I tried to work on myself, and it was a big challenge. I struggled with it a lot. And then sophomore, junior, senior year, I tried to do a little bit better with my coping skills. And then when I got to college, I felt better, more in control of myself. And I noticed that, like, yes, I do have mental health issues with this, and I've accepted that part of my identity as to the best of my ability. And then after that, I had hit a breaking point in high school, like with the screaming at mom thing, and it helped me learn a lot about myself going forward.
Wow, I'm so glad that you became aware of that situation. You took a step back, but it's also so much easy for someone to say that, hey, just stop it. Like when you're depressed and people are like, just be happy. Like, man, if only I could be happy, that's all I want. And, we struggle with that, and it's not, as easy as people tend to say it, when you're struggling with having everything to be so perfect and, people are just like, oh, take it easy, but it's in your mind, it's, an illness, that you are trying to be so perfect. And I totally see that. And I'm not a doctor or anything, but it kind of sounds like OCD, being, so specific to something, being everything perfect has to be this way. And recently, my partner's like, you want the perfect life. And I was like, no, I don't, and I go out, my house needs to be like clean all the time. So you know what, I'm trying to take it easy as well. So, we are on the same boat, just, to relax and stuff, but it's easier said than done to just relax. So it's kind of hard, and I'm totally with you, and thank you for sharing your experience with me. And I have a son now, so I will definitely be teaching him sign language. And if he ever comes across, a deaf, elementary girl, I hope that he's able to approach her and have, good communication. So that is, so good. Thank you for sharing all of your stories. And you said that, most of the boys weren't talking. So can you share a little bit about your personal life? Like, how is your relationship now?
Sure, yeah, I can talk about that. Actually, looking back, I think not being able to communicate with boys, it gave me a little bit of social anxiety with the hearing community and hearing people in general, because it's really hard for me to communicate. And boys were even tougher. And when I got into college, I became more exposed to the deaf community, and I realized like, whoa, I can communicate with deaf people, and that includes deaf men. So, which was really nice. So I interacted a little bit and didn't mind chatting with people. And I really had to thank ASL and the deaf community for that opportunity to be able to become a social being in that way. And through that, I just became more open to social experiences in general, and that's how I met my husband, who is deaf also. He is from a deaf family, and it was very comfortable in our communication styles together. He didn't grow up as shy as I did, because he had full access to the communication that was happening in his household, and he made friends pretty easily. We were friends for about a year before we dated, and then started dating. We've been married for 6 years now. And I thank the deaf community for the opportunity to overcome my social anxiety in that way.
Wow, that is so awesome. Congratulations on your marriage. And, being part of like the ASL community and, bringing awareness to that as well, not just, mental health, but I'm sure that, being deaf will, cause you to have social anxiety. And, I can't talk from experience about that, but I'm so thankful that you are here and, you're using your, knowledge and your experience and bringing awareness to that. Thank you so much for doing that. So can you go ahead and like tell me an experience, like when you are going through something, what do you do, or how does that look for you when you're dealing with a situation at the moment? Like, let's say, for example, I had a recent conflict and I was changing the baby's diaper. And my partner asked me, why are you doing that? And I got so triggered. I said, don't be asking me why I'm doing this. I kind of felt like my role as being a mother was being, looked down or looked down on. And that was not the case at all. My partner literally just wanted to know, why was I doing that, and I sat there and I screamed and I yelled, and it was really ugly. And then I started to realize, this is not the right way. And I asked him, can you please change the way you talk to me? He said, no, that's simply the way I'm going to ask you. And I said, well, that's very rude of you. You need to change the way you ask me. And he just kept insisting, no, why? There was nothing wrong, but I felt so triggered. I felt so bad, about doing something that I believe in. And then I told him, can you just please ask me in a different way? Like maybe ask me, what are the pros and the cons of doing this or changing the baby's diaper this way? And he was like, that's not me. That's, I don't go in depth. I don't ask questions like that. And I'm like, well, just do it for my mental health, help me feel better. And then I started to realize as I was talking, it's not about how he asks me, but it's about how I look at the word why. the word why was triggering to me. So then I started to change my perspective on the word why. So just changing the belief of the word why. So that's what I did in that moment. I started to believe that the word why was to make me feel little or to invalidate my motherhood or invalidate my role. And then I started to make the word why my belief was because he really wants to know the word. He really wants to know what I'm doing it for. So just changing your belief at that instant moment was something I realized was so good for me. And I'm starting to change my belief about a lot of things. Is there any situation for you that you've done? What do you use to better cope with things that trigger you or anything like that?
Yes, that sounds like a very common relationship scenario. As when people take things as a personal attack in that situation and feel like, well, why are you asking me that? Are you questioning my role as a mother, my role as a what? Like, I just feel very attacked. So that I would say that's common. In my relationship, I'm easily triggered by a lack of respect when I perceive that. I'm triggered also by the word why. Like, if my husband does something and I just feel like he's judging, like I'm not doing it correctly, I'm doing it wrong or something. And so, like, I have a brain. Why are you questioning how I'm doing it? So I have to kind of take a step back at my perspective, and I struggle with that sometimes. And the situation in the moment when I face that, I would try to disconnect perhaps and distance myself and not take it as a personal attack. Just if I'm not comfortable where I stand in my beliefs, I'm not going to just give that up for his sake. But at the same time, I want some harmony in the relationship. So that's how I deal with things with my husband. But from the flip side, when I ask him questions, or he's telling a story or whatever, I'm trying to stay engaged. And I notice that he just kind of has changed, put more nuance onto my belief system. Like, for example, like we had a disagreement about, I don't know, politics. Let's not bring politics, but how to do something, let's say. And like a way to wash the dish. There's a correct way and an incorrect way. So if we had different ways to wash the dishes, and if he were to look at me like, why are you doing it that way? I'd say, okay, that's fine, but why are you doing it this way? And so he would explain his reasoning and about how he keeps his dishes clean and his reasoning behind the way he does things. And I kind of take that in and try to gauge my emotions if that's like the logical way. He has logic behind the way that he's doing it, so I understand that rationale, and I do it my way because I just grew up doing dishes that way, and I have my own reasons for that. So maybe he doesn't accept that way, or he does, but at least we're showing respect to each other. And I notice that when I do that to him and I listen to him, it is a mutual respect, and he listens to me when it's my turn to share my side of things. So that's what we try to do. And honestly, marriage, that first year, it's a lot of confusion and turmoil. So we've been together 6 years now, and we rarely fight because I've learned his personal communication methods and what things are successful working with him, and asking questions seems to help, and I get some information out of him that way. And if I throw out one of things that are happening from my perspective, if I have a question, like, well, what happens if we do it this way? Like, from my perspective, what about this? And he kind of takes that in and considers it like, oh, I never thought of it that way. And that's how I can share my viewpoint without just attacking the way that he's doing stuff. Does that make sense? And that's the way that we stay in communication.
Yeah, it definitely does make sense. Seeing things in different perspectives, like with my mental health, I took the perspective of doing counseling first. And then, counseling was not working for me. I needed something more. And then I went to medication. And then, people do have views on, their own perspectives about taking medication during mental health, asking, counseling for, new skills and whatnot. And, you mentioned taking things personal, and a lot of people that are struggling with mental health, feel triggered or feel that a lot of people look down on them because they are asking for help, because they are on medication for things like that. And I know someone personally that will refuse to take medication, but say that again, but I know what I've struggled with, and they're struggling with the exact same thing, and they won't get medication. And it's just so hard because one mental illness can lead to another, and it's just so hard. And not everyone has an awareness to have a different perspective and accept other things and ways to cope with life. And everyone has issues, everyone has mental health, but sometimes it does become an illness. And taking care of yourself is one of the most important things, mentally, physically. If you have to call off work and say it's for a mental health day, and that should be okay. You shouldn't feel more guilty. When life throws so much at you, it's just so hard. And having my partner, first time seeing someone with a mental illness, firsthand, he gets to see all of the ends of postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis. And, I've hallucinated because I took my Zoloft is what I am on. And it's a depressant medication. So I took it, and the night before I go crazy cleaning the house, woke up, my back was aching so much. So I took my pain medication, and the pain medication had a effect on the depressant medication. So that afternoon at like around 12, I started to hallucinate. I seen maggots on our pan in the dishwasher. I called my partner. I grabbed the baby, put him on the stroller, and I went for a walk. I called my boyfriend and I said, I see maggots, and I started to go off. And I was like, I can't believe this, and struggling with my mental illness, he came, and it was a disaster. We were like talking, and it was just so bad that I literally sat there and had the thought, tomorrow I want to kill myself. And it's not because I was at the right state of mind. I was going through all of this, I was going through hallucinations. I was going through so much emotions. There's an imbalance in hormones after, pregnancy. And I remember clearly my plan. My plan was to find the gun, have my cousin come over and have her take my child and go to the park. And I would tell her I will meet her in a couple minutes. And then I would, continue on and harm myself. And it was so sad when I was talking to my partner about it. I told him, I don't want to hurt you. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I just don't want to hurt you. And then I said, I want to kill myself. And, struggling with that for so long, and, having it in that moment, just, it broke both of our hearts. We have a family, we're growing, and I've never experienced that in my entire life, ever. And just to feel those emotions, it's so hard when you feel at your lowest. And people don't talk about postpartum depression because it's a shame that I had these thoughts. It's a shame that I felt this way. Yes, but so many people feel similar situations, feel the same, feel lonely, feel miserable, feel overwhelmed. And, people don't talk about it. And it saddens me because no one I know has talked to me about postpartum depression until I was at the hospital for 6 days. Um, and I was seeing a psychiatrist, and, I was having those thoughts, and I was having, awful thoughts that, no one wants to talk about. It's something that you should be quiet and not be brought up. But if I don't talk to my partner about the thoughts, who will I have to talk to? And that's why I want to use my platform to open up and say, what, I was suffering through this. You're not alone, and I've experienced something similar. We're all in this together. Mental health, everyone has it, and some are so severe. I know someone that has committed suicide. I've had at my high school, when I was a junior, there was a homicide, and it was awful. And, to do, you know, events like that, and to kill yourself and to kill your partner, it's mental illness. So, I want to bring awareness to that a lot more, because it is not talked about, and people can get help regardless if it's with medication, if it's being mindful, changing your beliefs, if it's doing counseling, anything like that. Can you give us some of your tools? What do you do to help your mental health? What is it that you enjoy to do, and how do you feel about your group or your village of people that support you? How do you reach out for help?
Yes, thank you very much for sharing that experience. Like you were saying, when we talk about, like, I can't believe that I'm the only person, I feel like I'm the only person that's experiencing this, but you need to know that other people have experienced it also. And so when you share those stories, it brings awareness, and people feel safer to analyze their own mental health issues and feel supported if they need to ask questions. Because previously to this, for a long, long time, people didn't ask for help and they didn't talk about it. And now people like you and me and other people in the community sharing our experiences, hopefully that will bring some comfort to people and let them know that it's okay to ask for help and support that they need. And then for me, in my toolkit, in my toolbox, as it were, things that I do, well, I've got a few of them. For example, I enjoy looking at nature and being in nature and observing that, like flowers, waterfalls, and I really enjoy my time out in nature. It helps me a lot, especially with my mental health. I'm dealing with people and problems with people. Being in nature, if I can just get away from people, there's clearly less, and there's less distractions out there, and I just get to see the beautiful world around us and take in the sights and the visuals. That really helps a lot to I really enjoy that. That helps a lot. And then I also like looking at social media, with the caveat that it's like, well, I guess quote unquote social media. It's it's the mantra of social media. Not just general, like finding things online, but reading like expressive quotes and positive comments. And sometimes if I'm going through something, it helps to see comments that feel like exactly what I'm going through. And you can really identify with those things. It's like somebody's reading your mind almost. And those comments make me feel validated and supported in my journey. So that's been really helpful. It's as a reminder to just kind of quiet the mind and all the thoughts. Sometimes I'll go online and I'll read those things to just stay motivated. It's a good reminder for me anyway. And also, I enjoy watching like comedians and funny shows on TV, movies. I don't like heavy things typically. Like I like light, sweet stories that make me smile, and it's a good distraction. Sometimes people feel like TV is not an appropriate way to spend your time, but I really enjoy watching TV. It helps me kind of quiet my mind and immerse myself in other people's worlds. And then I get to get lost there for a little while. But it's got to be a light topic, nothing too heavy. I do enjoy that. Another thing that I do is use essential oils. Oils really help me a lot because the oils, when you smell it or when you use the oil on your skin, it communicates really quickly with your brain because of the way that it gets into your system. And there are specific oils and smells that help support brain function, and like especially bergamot. And it's kind of like a fruit, a citrus. But bergamot helps a lot and supports people who tend to be like anxious and worried. Smelling that kind of helps ground. It helps keep them grounded. And I've been using oils pretty much daily to help support my mood throughout the day and aromatherapy in that way. And you had asked me about my village. And since I grew up in Japan and I've been moving around to lots of different places, my village is kind of all over the place and all over the world. I've got a few really close friends that are in other countries and here in the States. If I am feeling down or depressed, my husband is there for me, and I kind of vent to him a little bit. And so if I need to speak with another person, I can text. And thank goodness for technology today with texting. I can just kind of, everyone's at your fingertips. So I'm really thankful for that. And it's nice to have a variety of both family support and friendship support. I think that's really important.
Yeah, wow, you have a really good list of, all the things that can help you when you're in a moment of, vulnerability, or like when you're going through something. Definitely, I think nature is, one of the biggest ones that helps. During the pandemic, I was in a home all day, especially after having a newborn. I was just freaked out, and I was just so scared because during the pandemic, I did lose 4 people in my family. So it did have a very big impact on me, and just bringing a whole new human to life. I was scared. I was inside. I didn't have visitors, so it really did take a big toll on me not being with nature. So I think, I'm currently outside, sitting outside, and I'm enjoying it. And I love the Arizona heat. I've been born and raised in Arizona for the last 22 years. So I enjoy it, and I love nature, and, going on hikes, and taking your, dogs with you. And, animal therapy is one thing that has helped me as well. And I'm, doing different types of therapy, like animal therapy is one that's, my favorite, because they have unconditional love, and regardless of your emotions, they will still be there. And I have a pit bull, so there's a little bad stigma on pit bulls as well. Especially because I have a newborn, but my dog, I am training him to the best of my ability. I am not a trainer, but I definitely do look up videos and, just watch. And I think watching TV as well and watching videos is one of my, therapies. I love doing it, I love seeing other people's lives as well, and I definitely relate to you with those too, watching videos or TV and being in someone else's life for a little bit, and, going out in nature. Yeah, I definitely do love those two things. And I want to go ahead and close up this call. But do you have anything else that you would like to add about, your mental health, about mental health awareness, and anything in general, you'd want people to know, or, just keep sharing? Is there anything?
Yes. I just wanted to add to what you were saying about animal therapy. I also have 2 dogs, and they have been super helpful. And I agree with you that, like, if you're feeling down, you're kind of in a funk, the dog, they're the ones coming up to you. They lick your face, or they're like, "Hey, I just love you and I want to play." And they, even though I haven't really been a good friend to them, they've been my best friend this whole time. And the dogs just want to be with you, and they don't care what kind of mood you're in. And I learn a lot from them and animals in general, that we humans, we humans in general could learn a lot with them about unconditional love and respect, and not adding any drama to the situation. That's because we sometimes act more like animals than we should, and I feel like that would solve a lot of problems if we acted more like them. And so I would also like to say something about social media. I notice now with COVID and the pandemic that a lot of times people stay at home, they're bored, they're on their technology, they're doing mindless scrolling on their phones, and that can become, like, if you are become entrenched in the social media world and start comparing yourself to what you see there, that comparison isn't always a good thing and can make you feel a little bit more down in the dumps than you would. And I know that that has a big impact on your mental health. So what I do, I've set up a timer, a time limit for my social media use. So I can scroll, and then when the timer is done, I put it away. And I'll look to see if a person responded or contacted me, obviously. But other than that, I try to very much limit my social media time in that regard, which is hard because we all like social media and scrolling. And it's not a benefit to your mental health sometimes to do that. Another thing is that when people become obsessed with the comparison part of that, they're not in that person's life, and if you're not consuming people who are benefiting you and uplifting you with positive information, you should seek those people out and follow them. If you're immersed in things that are negative and following things that are negative, that's obviously going to have an impact on you as well. So limiting social media time and just reminding people that what you see on social media, that's not always real sometimes, and to not get obsessed with the comparison factor in that. There's no rules that say you have to look at social media. So if you need a break, go ahead and take a break and put your phone down and close the laptop.
Oh yeah, animal therapy is, something that I experienced with animal therapy is when one of my family members was at the hospital in their very young age, and they were going through a surgery, and the dogs came in, and I'm like, what is this? I've never heard of animal therapy until that day came, and from that day on, I love being with animals, and I see the benefit of, being around around horse therapy as well. And, I definitely do see the big change, and how you mentioned that, animals will come to you regardless what mood you are. You might not be in the best mood, but they still come, up to you and lick your feet. And yeah, so, social media. Let's talk about that. I've seen, so many people loving their pregnancy, being so, involved with their pregnancy. My pregnancy was awful, and it was my first pregnancy, and my pregnancy was planned, but I was not feeling the way that the pictures were perceived to be looking at. You look at a picture and you see, wow, this is so beautiful, this is how it's supposed to be. That's not how I was feeling at all. I went to the hospital 2 times during my pregnancy. I was constantly throwing up, day in and day out. It was just so hard for me. And seeing that comparison, this is the way I'm supposed to be, and during after pregnancy, a lot of women, love their children right after. I can say I did not have those feelings. My partner once told me, hey, the baby's on the bed. I was right next to the baby. So he said, I'm going to step out of the room for a minute. The baby, watch him. And I said, no, I do not want to. And I always think, do the people on social media think that, are they going through that too? And that's why with my social media, I want to be like real and raw and just say the truth about my feelings. I don't want to hide it anymore. Hiding makes you feel weaker. Hiding makes you feel more miserable. And, I can't perceive my life to be the best when I'm really not feeling the best. So changing that view on social media and just being honest with your audience, I think is so important, and not have that comparison. Everyone has their own stories and has their own struggles, and just sharing them, is a lot better for me than just lying and saying, oh, my pregnancy was so great, when in all reality, I did not want to be alive. I was, physically in so much pain. I was mentally so drained. And I think this, period in my life just really did shift for me mentally, and with social media as well. I said, there's no way everyone feels so happy with, being pregnant and after pregnancy. And as soon as I started posting about, mental health and postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, and just all the things that I post online, I could not give you an exact number, but it is so high about all the people that have mothers that have told me their story. And just for their privacy, I don't want to share their names or their stories, but it is so wow, eye-opening that I'm not the only one, but I am the only one that does share it. I am the only one that, that I see, like, wow, you're going through this, but you don't really share that. Like, it was kind of just like taboo to them. Like, they were very private about them. But I'm like, I can only imagine how you felt, not telling anyone. I need to tell everyone, this is how I'm feeling, like, please help me. What can I do to feel better? And social media, I'm not going to say is a lie, because, people can be truly happy, and, people can be truly miserable, and they can just share whatever they want. And it is so important to minimize, the time that you're consumed by it. Let me tell you, I'm consumed by social media a lot. I'm trying to limit it, but every time that 15-minute limit comes, I'm like, ignore. And I am working on it. And I think it has to do with my anxiety. My phone is the closest thing to making me feel comfortable at the moment. My phone. Ava, wait. I'm in a meeting. Sorry, my niece interrupted. But yeah, social media has, a very big impact, and it's very hard to juggle all of it. And especially for me, I was off social media for a whole year, and then I just got on it, and I was like, I'm going to be the real me on my social media. And not that I wasn't the real me on my social media, but I would only share, the best moments in my life. I've traveled to so many countries, Australia, Poland, Paris, Barcelona, Mexico, New York, Florida, Washington, California. I can just go on and on and on, but I was only sharing those moments, and they're so glamorous, but now I'm like, my life is so glamorous. I just don't need to post that. I need to post what I'm truly feeling, and I'm using it as an outlet to bring awareness that, hey, sometimes you're not okay, and it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to have these experiences, and don't make yourself more miserable by, endlessly scrolling and watching this and having a comparison. So yeah, I definitely, am thankful that you brought that up, because, I am on social media a lot and I'm trying to limit it, but it's not you wake up and, oh, you're done. I mean, some people can do that. Some people can stop, but for me, it's a work in progress. It's a habit that needs to be undone, and one thing I can do is pick a book instead of picking up my phone, pick up my dog instead of picking up my phone, smile at my newborn instead of picking up my phone, or, simple things that will undo that habit of constantly just picking up your phone, like look up for a second and, smile or close your eyes for 10 seconds before you pick up your phone, being in that moment rather than endlessly scrolling, like you mentioned. So that is something that I'm going to start doing more, but it's a habit that needs to be undone.
For sure. I definitely agree with you. It seems like being mindful is a tool that I use, and it's very important. And I'm also a work in progress. So sometimes I do divert to social media, but setting up the timer has really helped me limit that. And if somebody contacts me, obviously I'm going to respond. But other than that, I'm not going to spend my day endlessly scrolling. And that timer really has helped with limiting my social media use.
Yeah, you mentioned being mindful. You know what? If I'm being completely honest, I've never knew about that or how to do it. I was not raised with parents that are mindful, that do that. So when I started therapy, I started doing being mindful activities, meditating, using the ABC method or model. I can go ahead and share that with you, but it's about changing your beliefs, and we talked about that, and that was what I've been doing. And being mindful is just something that's so important, and I did not know about that, and I'm learning new things to better my mental health. And I think that people need to reach out to the resources to do that as well.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that ABC method, like what the acronym stands for? I'm curious now.
So ABC model: A is action, A is action, B is belief, C is consequence. So let's say a snake is in front of you, that is the action. How would you feel?
Scared.
So A is the action, that there's a snake. B is the belief that, you believe that snakes are, poisonous, they're a threat. So therefore your beliefs make your conscious mind think that. So A, B, C, the consequences that you are scared. So you start changing your belief about the action, about the environment, about what's in front of you. So you change your belief about the snake. If there was a chef, he would say, oh my goodness, there's food, delicious, let's eat it. Someone else will say a snake, oh my gosh, the best pet that you can possibly have. But that is from their environment, from their perspectives to their beliefs. And that's the consequence. And what I'm working on is changing the beliefs, changing that perspective and why you think that way and what caused you to be there, what part of your experience as, growing up or anything like that. So that is kind of how I can make it as simple as possible, but the ABC model goes more into, more in depth and like that. But I can definitely send that over to you and you can start, applying it to your life and, start using it as well. And that's what I've been doing, and during counseling, they give me so many new skills and I love it because those are things that, I was never taught when I was young. I was never taught that in my household. I was never taught to have, a different belief about things, change your perspective. And, so now as I'm growing, I see that there's things that, hey, I can change my perspective on things, they don't always have to be, stuck this way or, so straightforward to just this and nothing else, it can be changed, and it takes a lot to be, undoing your thought and then creating it again. It's like being born, all over again, learning new things, but it's easier being born and learning than it is being, born and then having to do everything all over again. It is a challenge. And that's what I do to, better my mental health, change my beliefs about a lot of things. And I think changing the beliefs about mental health all around, that if you have a mental health illness, that, oh my God, it's so horrible. That is so awful. You can't have it. I don't choose to have this mental illness, but changing the belief that it's so bad. Hey, it's actually good that, I have this and I'm getting treated for this.
Absolutely. I like what you were saying about the action, and a lot of things that we can't control what happens to us. And with mental health issues that show up kind of randomly, the action is not always something in our control, but the beliefs, is something that we do have control over and we can change and are malleable, which would change the consequences. So life happens, yeah, that's the A. But how we deal with it, the B and the C going forward, I really like what you were saying about that. I totally agree.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm just learning it, and I'm implementing it to my life. And it has to do, with so many little scenarios. And I'm just, being so bitter about things and, being so angry. And I think it's because of my upcoming as well, things I've seen, things I've heard in my household and, just changing the beliefs about things. And yeah, life does throw a lot of things at us, but we can't be angry or anything at life itself. So, changing your beliefs is one way that, you can better cope with what's going on and, have that, more positive than negative, not being so draining and having it be a better thing with your beliefs.
Right. Definitely agreed. That's a good point.
Okay, I think this is a very good point where we should end the call, and I'll go ahead and, do the editing and do all of that stuff. And, thank you so much for just being open with me. I've learned that, hey, instead of, grabbing my phone, I can go ahead and do something else. I never really thought about that until this call, until I started to, see what I'm doing and, being aware of that. So I just want to say thank you so much. And, taking the time to build this relationship, this friendship with, both of us. And I hope that, your mental health journey, I hope you document it in whatever way you can, and see your growth and see that you're not alone and, start building your group of, village and that support. And, I want to go ahead and be part of that if I can, if, you give me the honor to be, part of your mental health journey and documenting everything. I'm a big fan of, showing people what it is to mental health and, how it can be a positive and negative on everything like that. So just, thank you so much for everything. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me, not once, but twice. And I hope there's going to be a third time as well. Just keep in touch and, keep moving forward. And thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing everything with me.
I really appreciate this opportunity, truly. I do have more stories to share, but time has run out, and we've gotten to the point where we're all on our own journey, and bringing more awareness and more stories to share from my own book has really empowered me to move forward with a positive mindset and positive mental health.
Yeah, definitely share your stories, please. It will, help someone out there, and, someone will listen to you. And, that's what I'm doing, sharing my story. Share your story. We don't have the same story, but we definitely do have, that power to do that, share. And, we can go ahead and just end this call here. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Bye.